I'm Tara Jones from Peaceful Solutions Riding and Training, and I'm back. Thank you for watching my channel, and we're going to do another training exercise today called the chain link exercise. Years ago, when I was the assistant trainer for Kenny Harlow and I lived in Virginia, I helped him with the curriculum for his program, which was the one-year-long certification program, which I am certified through him for. And in that time period, what I did was I took some of the exercises that I had incorporated into my program here and helped jumble them together with the exercises of his programs. Together, we made a really, really cool program, and the curriculum for his one-year certification class got lots better. So what I wanted to share with you guys is sometimes I bring out some of the older exercises that I do because they aren't in fact old. They're great foundation exercises. But as I go through the levels and I start learning new things, I sometimes often forget about the old things that I used to do. So what I wanted to share today was the chain link exercise, like I said. And I wrote about the chain link exercise in the second manual that I wrote for Kenny, which it's called Moving Forward. And Phantom and I are featured on the cover of this. And if you go to page 151, you'll see the chain link exercise. So behind me, what is set up is a bunch of barrels basically lined up with 2 steps in between each barrel. Now, the first thing everybody says is I don't usually have that many barrels. If you can get your hands on some barrels, barrels are better. And the reason why barrels are better is because it helps the rider to elevate their shoulders, and it helps them not to look down and sink their body to the left or to the right, which was going to throw the horse onto the forehand. The reason why I use barrels is to help the rider to lift up their body and really use their body. You can do this exercise with cones, which I will show you at a later date in another video. But today what we're going to go through is the purpose of the chain link exercise. And as I wrote years ago, the purpose of the chain link exercise is to soften the jaw, neck, and shoulders, gain a change of direction, teach the rider's hands to release at the proper time, and it also teaches the hands to work effectively, not quickly. Now, one of the things I like to do with the chain link exercise is I'm going to show you a few variations of how to do it. I'm going to have to do this next section as a voiceover because the wind today is kind of loud and you're not going to be able to hear me if I just talk over my microphone. But as I will explain in the voiceover, the first way I'm going to go through the chain link exercise is by raking or using one rein at a time. And the reason why I do this is because it helps the rider to keep their hands busy. Oftentimes in a clinic, I'll go to this exercise because it keeps riders idling. Not idling. It allows them to stay busy so that they're not creating idle time between when they're asking a horse to do something or just to sit there and not really do anything. So as we progress, the benefits of this exercise are the horse will engage the hindquarters, obviously because we're moving the shoulders and we're picking up the shoulders more. They'll gain further shoulder control because we're going to teach the horse to step out and follow the shoulder. And the horse will become more responsive to your leg cues. Now, when I first do this exercise, I don't really encourage everybody to use their leg to help change direction or turn. The reason for that is later you can enhance this and your leg can then come in to tell the horse to open the step wider or make the stride bigger or also speed up the leg that it's stepping out with. So I usually tell everybody when you start this exercise, 2 legs tell the horse to go forward or change the leg speed. And the last part that is a great benefit is the hip control will become softer. So you're going to learn to change with the shoulders and as a progress portion of that, you're going to start to gain more control of the horse's hip, in turn making the whole horse softer. Anyway, this is part of lateral balance, which is your left to right balance. So it's very, very, very important in your horse's training. This is your suppling end of what we're doing with your horse. Now, later on in another video, I'll show you how to straighten your horse. Both exercises are going to be incredibly important and go hand in hand. You can't have too much suppling with your horse and not enough straightness, but on the flip side, you can't have too much straightness and not enough suppling. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab one of my horses, and I'm going to show you how to start this exercise. First, alternating hands through the entire pattern, and I'm just going to serpentine down and then turn right around and come all the way back. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick my hand up and open it in order to open the shoulder and step out in the direction of travel with the horse's shoulder and the rein aid. And then I'm going to go ahead and use both hands on the reins and show you what it's supposed to look like as we're walking through. So let's get started. Hi there, everyone. Here I am mounted on Striker, and we're beginning through the chain link exercise. If this looks familiar to you, I am going through this exercise first by alternating the reins left and right and raking on each rein. The first thing that you might visually pick up on is how wide the turns are. Now remember, between the barrels, it's only 2 of our steps. So these barrels are relatively close. As Striker goes through this exercise, and as we keep bending back and forth, raking the rein, while he's laterally, cervically flexing, he will start to enhance how he turns through the barrels. This is a wonderful exercise because it's one of those exercises that really begins to just teach the horse. All the rider really needs to do is practice their timing of how they use their hands. And if you watch as I go through this exercise again, and I show you how I'm raking to the right, hands come back to center, I begin to rake to the left, hands come back to center, and so on and so forth, all the way through the pattern. It doesn't leave a lot of idle time, which was what I was talking about before. Oftentimes, the timing of when people use their hands is the problem. So when I teach this exercise in a clinic, it becomes really apparent to the riders how much they really have to do during the ride, but how much they have to slow their hands down. So what I'm trying to do here is just get in a rhythm, and as you can see, Striker is getting better and better at how he turns through the barrels. So we're going to come down to the end here once again, and now I'm going to change the way I'm asking him. I'm going to open my rein just as I'm demonstrating there. And what I want to make sure that I do, and what you want to pay great attention to, is as you go through this exercise, you want to open and lead your horse to the left and to the right. Don't pull your horse to the left and to the right. The rein aid is simply a suggestion. So if your horse has a lot of problem with this part of the exercise, then go back to raking the reins. Now, Striker is one of those horses that's really bendy. He's very, very supple and very soft. So as I go through this exercise, you'll see that he starts to get closer and closer to the barrels and isn't traveling out so far beyond them. I'm going to circle around once again, and it's very important that the horse keeps moving forward. My legs are not helping him to curve, turn, or push him towards the barrel. I'm also not using my inside leg to keep him away from the barrel. It's very important in the beginning that you teach your horse off the rein aid, especially when you're moving the shoulders. While my leg looks like it is adding pressure, it's simply just there as a wall. Sometimes you might see me add both legs to speed Striker up, to start to engage or push forward with the activity in his hind feet. That way he'll always get softer in the front. Now I'm going to demonstrate going through this pattern using 2 reins. And as you can see, the outside rein stays relatively straight while the inside rein is doing the same thing that it was just doing. It's simply opening and directing Striker in the direction that I would like him to step to. So essentially what he's doing is when I travel around this blue barrel and step out to the left, that would be like stepping out to 11 o'clock. And as I round the black barrel here, when I step out towards 1 o'clock to the right, that is the direction that I'd want my hand to go. So when we start to clean up this exercise, and you can see as we start to travel through, it's going to get to the point where Striker's almost straight. Now, I'm going to show you some common mistakes that are often made during this pattern. I see this a lot. People pick up the rein as I'm doing here, and you can see that his bend is now crooked. This is something that I call head tilt. Now, what you're going to see is one ear is going to go lower, the hip is going to swivel, and he's going to end up almost stopping or running into the barrel. If you watch my hand, it's coming behind the wither. That's always a way to move the haunches. This is not the direction where your hand needs to go. The other thing I'm going to demonstrate as I'm going through here, and as you can see again, we're going back to raking, the first thing that we did, and I'm going to erase all the bad pulling I just did. You can see that Striker's ears are level, and he's traveling through the barrels at a nice pace with an even, timely step. Now we're going to begin again, and I'm going to show you another common error. People tend to pull out towards their hip often. So when they pull out towards their hip, they're going to make the horse swing the haunches slightly. And you can see, anytime that you pick up the rein and you pull, you're going to create drag within the horse's neck and the shoulder. Now, every time Striker steps in adduction, I'm losing the hind end. Here I'm over-exaggerating, leaning or tilting or falling to the inside. Believe it or not, I do see this. Now, obviously, I'm over-exaggerating it, but I wanted you to see how it affects Striker's body. I'm not really getting any closer to the barrel, even when I'm leaning and tilting. And oftentimes what will happen is what you've just seen me do there, is somebody will add their inside leg, thinking that it would be helpful, and they end up pushing the horse to the outside. Now I'm demonstrating probably one of the most common mistakes I see, which is crossing over the horse's mane with the outside rein. The other mistake I see is open fingers, pulling down to the hip or knee, and pulling back towards the horse's tail. All of these are huge mistakes, and as you can see, yes, Striker's still doing the pattern that way, but all of our intricate, tiny portions of the technique that needs to build up to do this exercise, we are missing. So you want to make sure as you travel through this exercise, and as I'm showing you here, with a almost straight head position using both reins, that you're not over bending, hanging on the rein, pulling it in an improper direction, and you're not overusing leg or seat aids. Just simply allow this exercise to teach your horse. Remember, your lateral cervical flexion should only be as if we put a paintbrush in the horse's, let's say, left nostril and a paintbrush on the left front foot. They should follow the same line. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope the chain link exercise helps.